Good morning, Doug.
Good morning.
How are we doing this morning, sir?
Great. You made the move?
I have. It's still getting a little situated. This is the start to week 3 officially. Yep, start to week 3. So week 1 was all moving. Got back to work last week. So this is kind of my second full swing of work. So still trying to figure all that. But yes, sir, I appreciate you asking.
Yeah, you bet. So LA's treating you well, huh?
You know it is. It's the weather's great. It's the what was I going to say? I'll tell you one thing. One thing that is kicking my butt is this time change. And because number one, I haven't adjusted like all of my calendars and things like that. So,
Yeah.
I messed around and had a meeting at 5:45 this morning. And I'm like, oh yeah, because this random calendar hasn't switched over yet.
Yep.
And then also just trying to coordinate just practical business things. Our headquarters is more in Eastern time, so literally 3 hours away. So last week I found myself, me and my business partner, like I just pick up the phone and call him at like 6:30, which is just like a normal call for us. And he's like, yeah, just sitting down and watching TV with the girl. And I'm like, oh yeah, it's like 9:30 at night. And then he called me the other morning a couple times. We were working on something, and my phone just keeps ringing. And I'm like, who is calling me at like 4:30? And it's him. And I pick it up, and I'm like, is everything okay? Is there like an emergency? And he's like, dude, he's like, until the second time I called, it didn't even click that it's like 4:30. I'm like, yeah, what are you what are you blowing up my phone for at 4:30?
It's a weird thing, yeah, because I'm in Dallas, and we go to headquarters periodically, which is in Sunnyvale for us in California, and yeah, it's I always feel like I'm running behind when I'm out there, and I guess now that you're living there, you're just going to get used to it. But yeah, especially if you're dealing with East Coast people, you just they've got 3 hours that they're already working, and you're just getting out of bed. It's bizarre.
Yeah, it's also made it awkward for this. So we don't have the biggest footprint. I think technically we have, I think the number is like 6 California clients. So the majority of our business isn't even on this time zone. So it's like my schedule is jam packed from like 6:30 to like 12-ish, 1-ish. And then I just have 3-4 hours of just emptiness on my calendars, which also is kind of interesting. Because it's like it's still good work time, but I've also started working at like 5:30, 6 o'clock because I'm working on that, more on like Eastern Standard. So it's like I finish my days and it's like I want to take a break because I've been going 8, 9 by 2 o'clock. Then I'm like, it's literally 2:30 in the afternoon right now.
Yeah, I believe it. I believe it.
But what's going on? Anything else new in your world? How's I know, let me make sure nobody else is we got anybody that joined us?
I think we're good. Just us. Yeah, everything's good with me. I'll tell you what, if it's just us, then I'm going to go ahead and drop. I got some other calls to make.
I was going to see, I'm looking right now. We do have 2 other panelists. I was going to give it about 2. But yeah, definitely. If you want to go, Doug, as always, I appreciate your time. What was I going to say? I was trying to think if I owed you anything. I think Ellie's got you guys all squared away.
She does.
Perfect.
Good. All
well, I'm going to give it
good
2
stuff.
more minutes.
Glad to hear it's going well for you.
Doug, and I appreciate you as well. As always, let me know if you need anything from me, Ellie. Appreciate your time.
All right. See you. Take care.
Yes, sir. Take it easy. All right. Who else we got on here? Looks like we have Mr. Halligan. Mr. Halligan, how are we doing today, sir?
Good. Can you hear me now?
I can. I actually just realized for somehow the other gentleman that was on the call was brought in as a panelist. So me and him could actually only hear each other, and that's why we couldn't see you guys. So I just moved it over, and it looks like I also have a Rasu on the call.
Yes.
Good morning, ma'am. How are you today?
Very well. How are you?
I am excellent. Thanks for asking. And Miss Rasu, if you don't mind, what company are you calling in from?
I'm actually joining from Honeypots.
From Honeypots, how'd you hear about us?
Through your website. My boss has recommended, that I attend this.
Okay. Well, we definitely appreciate you. We've definitely heard about you all also. So one thing I'll tell you, and I know Mr. Halligan knows, is yeah, we offer this once a month, ma'am. So we are a full service agency. So we're a Facebook agency partner, TikTok, LinkedIn, all of that. But we have a division called social selling. And essentially what it does is it leverages LinkedIn primarily as a platform. And we have a ton of services, everything from automation, appointment setting, workshops, webinars. We have a number of different offerings around that. And so what we do once a month is we do this free webinar for our customers, where basically what we're doing is talking through a little bit more of the nuance of LinkedIn. So maybe some things that you may not, it's not that you can't learn it, but maybe you just don't have anyone to teach you some of the tips and the trends, latest platform changes, things like that. So these aren't the longest webinars, but they are a little, not deep, but they do kind of get into the nuance of LinkedIn as well to kind of support all the other things that we do. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that sounds excellent. I'm excited to learn.
Yes, ma'am. Is there anything in particular? Because I'm going to get started here. There's only about two of you on today, so you and Mr. Halligan. So I always like to ask on smaller groups like this, ma'am, is there anything today in particular that I could address on LinkedIn? Do you have any questions, general or specific? When we have smaller groups like this, we can actually we can be a little bit more custom.
Of course, yeah, that would make sense. I guess I'm actually trying to get an idea about your product, so I guess that would be a great start.
Perfect. Mr. Halligan, how you doing this morning, sir?
Hey, I'm doing good, Lorenzo. And Rasu, I've been a customer of Socially In for about 6 months, and I'd just like to give them an endorsement. It has helped me in my sales efforts to get more customers that I would not have reached without Socially In. So it's been a great relationship for me and my company.
Oh, that's good to hear. Thank you for the insight. That'll be helpful for sure.
Yes.
Yeah, Bill, definitely appreciate that, sir. Thank you. Mm-hmm. And one thing I'll say, ma'am, that I really love about Bill, and when I think about I won't say our best clients, but people who really get the value out of what we do, it's people who really lean into these type of offerings. So Bill's one of those people who he's on this call every single month. And so, like I said, so Rasu, I definitely encourage you, your team, you can invite other people to here, but we will try to give you a ton of resources. To really make sure that your campaign and everything is going to be successful. So what I'm going to do, without further ado, I'm going to get started on what we brought for you all today. I'm actually pretty excited. Today wasn't as tips and kind of numeric as it normally is. So I'm glad that we have a smaller group because it'll mean that we'll have some things that we could share.
Okay, I can see your screen, Lorenzo.
Perfect. And
hey, Lorenzo, before you get started, can I give you and Rasu, we had a really nice win with Socially In the last couple of days.
Yes, I would appreciate it, actually. Oops. Stop sharing. I got to pre-present this. Sorry. Yes, sir.
Yeah. So, as you know, we sell IT products and services, but through Socially In, I got hooked up with a company called Lions Human Resources, and they sell HR solutions.
Okay.
So we just signed an agreement with them where we just make recommendations to our customers, whoever needs HR services, then we bring them in, they sell it, and we get commission on it. So it's just another product that we have to sell to our small, medium business with very little effort on our part. So that all happened through Socially In.
That's awesome. Bill, if you don't mind, you got a dollar amount on that contract yet?
Dollar amount, it depends on how much we sell.
Okay. Oh, because it's just going to be a almost like an affiliate type of agreement.
Yeah, so we're going to be sitting in front of our customers selling IT services and say, hey, by the way, how's your HR department? And, yeah, so it'll be referrals, and then we get paid monthly. based on the contract that Lions HR sells. So it's a kind of an easy sale for us. We're in there anyways, and we might as well sell a total solution to the small, medium-sized businesses.
Bill, again, great job. Great job. So definitely grab some pen and paper. Like I said, I'm really going to talk to you guys today. Sometimes we do lists and sometimes, we go live on LinkedIn. Today is going to be some good conversation. And it's going to be around the lines of selling today and selling without ads. And Bill, you're on this call pretty consistently. And we've talked everything from selling through messaging, selling, leveraging a corporate page, all of these things. Last month, we talked about how to meaningfully engage with an organic audience and an organic group. Today, I want to take that last month's conversation a little deeper and really get into some best practices and some nuance that comes to actually selling directly to your customers, both from a personal as well as a corporate page. Going to spend the majority of the time on the personal page, but there's still some corporate elements that I do want to briefly touch on today. Why should you both be selling or using LinkedIn for organic selling? One of the biggest differences between LinkedIn and other social media platforms is that people expect to be sold. People expect to buy. People expect to conduct business on LinkedIn. It's just that simple. Selling and pitching on LinkedIn, it's not a shock. It's expected. Now, at the same time, there's obviously I won't say a right or a wrong, but there is a more efficient way that you can make sure that you're getting responses. But at the end of the day, whether you're aggressive, whether you're casual or passive, people expect to buy and be sold on LinkedIn. That's important mentally for you to remind yourself that when you're running different approaches, whether it's leveraging automation or whatever it's going to look like, it's okay. People are expecting to buy. The second thing, and this is key. Bill, me and you have talked about this in our over 2-year relationship or close to 2-year relationship. You still have to earn the right to sell. That's something that I feel very passionate about. And I like to describe that as before you expect someone to buy, provide value. By providing value, that's how you begin earning the right to sell to someone. Simple as that. There's less pressure, but it's the start of building a relationship. And that's the one thing that so many people miss when they're leveraging LinkedIn as a platform to sell, is because sometimes you can find the exact person. You can send them a message, they get on a meeting, and you can get not lucky. You can have a quick interaction like Bill had and they buy. You expect that everyone does that. And you forget that people are still expecting a relationship, building a relationship, pipeline. You don't have to get people to buy now. We're going to go through a little bit of a little bit more detail of that. But those are two big things for us to consider and think about as we go through today. LinkedIn is a platform where people expect to buy and expect to be sold, and you still have to earn that right to sell to people. A few other things that are just different than LinkedIn than other social media. For example, LinkedIn doesn't mind when you send people off platform. Why is that important? Well, in your spaces, both of what you do, it's important for you guys to set yourself apart from competitors and be a thought leader and be an expert. Yes, LinkedIn can provide a platform for that, but sometimes you're going to want to send them to articles, or maybe your company writes an article or your company page. The beautiful thing is, unlike Facebook and other platforms, LinkedIn does not suppress any post that links where you're going to take people off platform. So it's easier to provide that value and those resources. Secondly, excuse me. And then just like we talked about before, people in the mindset and the audience, people are already primed for sales. They're already expecting to buy. So whenever you can leverage these personal interactions with that branded promotional content from your company, that's a great combination way to really increase your organic reach on LinkedIn. A few best practices, and this is something that we have actually done research on. We all know, well, I won't say we all know, it's been said that the average salesperson only reaches out to somebody no more than 2 times, sometimes 3 times. One of the things that we're also taught in sales is that the average touch point of most successful interactions from a cold client was 7 to 12. Here's something that's crazy, you guys. Since the pandemic has happened, the number has increased to almost 30 touch points before a client buys. 30 touch points. So if we thought the old adage of 2 to 3 times a week, try texting and trying these different things, you are now are expected to touch people sometimes as frequently as once a day. So let's keep that in mind. The space is a little more crowded, a little more nosy than it used to be. So because of that, it's also very important for us to make sure we're separating ourselves, providing value before we go to sell. Because imagine this, if you're going after the C-level exec of a large company and other people are seeing this exact same research that you're seeing, imagine how many people and how many touch points some of your target audiences are getting on a daily basis. Imagine how overwhelming that is. So it's key and important to make sure that we could separate ourselves. And part of that is by providing that value, earning that right to sell. Really quick, we're going to spend some time on what we like to call buckets that visitors fall into. Whenever anybody comes to your LinkedIn page, typically they're going to be in 3 spaces. They're going to be in what's called a cold bucket, a warm bucket, or a hot bucket. As you can imagine, and I know we're in sales in this call, the names reflect the relationship between you and how closely or how likely these prospects are to sell. Cold client, a cold prospect may be an ideal client based upon his demographic or work position, but there's no relation to you or your brand. A hot person may be that person who already understands, they've already engaged with you, you've already been in conversation before, they're ready to buy when the time is right. The reason this is important, your prospects will consistently be in all 3 of these buckets, which means that your page and your LinkedIn social strategy has to make sure you're accounting for each of those individual groups. You need to have a plan when cold prospects come to your page, when warm, and they're hot. And to take that to the next level, you need to also have a plan of how we can move them through that process, how we can take a cold prospect and move them to warm and move them to hot, how we can take a hot prospect and get them to convert for LinkedIn. One of the ways that you can do that technically is LinkedIn, and we've talked about this a few different times over the past couple of months, is showcasing and leveraging that featured section on your profiles that we've talked about before. It's right above the About section, but it's places that you can not only share posts, but you can upload documents, images, and you can upload links that are actually pinned there. So you can move around your featured content to make sure that it's addressing and engaging with the different buckets like we've talked about. I'm going to pause really quick here. Any questions or any thoughts about what we've discussed so far? Perfect. So I always like to give, very actionable things on these calls. So what are some different things that you can do concerning showcasing the right content on your featured section and just in LinkedIn? And we're going to take this bucket by bucket. Cold visitors. Cold. What are some tactics and engagement things that you all should be doing on here? First off, showcasing links and posts to articles that you've shared is key. Why is that? So again, take yourself through this process as we're talking here. Imagine a prospect that's cold comes to you, your individual profile, Rasu, your individual profile, Bill. What's a post or an article that we can have featured, that we can have as soon as they come close to the top of our page, that starts to allow them to get to know us, our company, our industry, our space? How can we make sure we caption it? That's something that we've talked about plenty of times, why it's important to caption any article that you share and not just share it. People want to know your thoughts, whether you agree or whether you disagree. Asking questions in your caption. Is anyone on my timeline seeing this in their industry? How are their companies dealing with this? It allows people, it allows your profile to be considered that space for thought leadership and expertise. People don't always have to go offline and go to a company's about page or about us or why us type of page. So these are great ways for you all to establish yourself as somebody that can provide value. So imagine the first time if a cold person came to your site and they automatically get this sense that, man, Bill is always posting about the latest in IT security and trends. He's somebody that I should definitely keep in mind to want to come back to. He may be able to keep me in the loop and add some value. Again, we're not trying to take people from cold to hot. Remember that. We're just trying to take people from cold to warm. The article itself can begin to warm up that cold lead. So then we have warm leads, people who have visited our pages before. They have some exposure to you, or they have some exposure with Honeypot or MicroPulse. These are the tactic that we like to do here is let's take them offline now. Now we're trying to deepen that relationship. Again, the idea is that we've already given them opportunities to engage on our page. Now let's continue to provide new resources, continue to show them value, continue to show them why we're a thought leader and expertise. Now we're going to recommend we take them offline, taking them to a company blog page. These things are awesome. YouTube videos. And how? These are visitors who've seen, they've interacted with you multiple times. You found yourself commenting back and forth on an article that you guys are both interested in. They know each other. They've engaged with your content. They may have shared it. Or they can even be people who we've just properly taken through the funnel. They were cold. They visited our page. They went and checked out our blog page. They've came back. I've endorsed them. They've liked some of my content back. These people are now ready to take that next step. At this point, this is where we really start to encourage sending our Calendly links, having people opt into newsletters, asking just to schedule a call, actually sending direct proposals or examples or products that you think are relevant to them. At this point, now people are ready to buy.
Hey, Lorenzo, I had a question or a comment.
Yes, sir.
On the cold leads, were you referring to putting links and information into your LinkedIn profile? Because I've always thought of the profile as being not very dynamic. I've always said, well, this is, you set it up once, maybe change it every quarter or something, and it's done. But then communicate with my LinkedIn connections through sharing and posting. So
great question.
Because I've never even thought about putting that into my having a dynamic profile page.
Mm-hmm. So, and this gets into some of our services. So this is one of the things that our social selling assistants consistently do. This is one of the values that they provide. And it's exactly what you talked about, Bill. There are two different ways that we can make that profile dynamic. Obviously, by just consistently sharing, a couple times a week and posting your own types of content, you're starting to create this feed. However, one of the really cool things that LinkedIn has done is LinkedIn has created what's called a featured section. So right above where you're about, so when people are going to your profile and they see you're about, they see this section that you can not only customly make, you can update all the time. So this is basically saying, these are the most relevant things that I want people to consistently see. And our strategy a lot of times with our assistants is let's be strategic with that featured section. Let's shift that featured section every couple of weeks to account for the different audiences. So for example, Bill, here's a very practical thing. Sometimes in your featured section, you would just want to put the latest blog that MicroPulse MicroPulse has created. Maybe there's a new white paper that you guys have done as far as like a document or just some type of case study or something that you can have. And then maybe there's also maybe a YouTube page or a YouTube video or something like that. But the idea would be that this isn't going to consistently stay like that. The idea would be that strategically in the very near future, you are going to shift that featured section. It's not it's not the place to hold all of your information. It is literally a place to almost have a round robin approach to content and what you're featuring. So to appropriately leverage the featured section, you need to have a plan to adjust the content that's featured, frankly. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, I never even thought about doing that till this call right here. So yeah, thank you.
Yes, sir. That's literally what we're here for. How much time we got? All right. A couple things as we're wrapping up, and then we're going to end with 3 tips. So a couple of things for you all to keep in mind. Unlike Facebook, for example, as a platform, LinkedIn does not value one type of content over another. So it's not one of those platforms where video content is king and make sure you're doing video. It values them all equally. And it really works to distribute the content to people as widely as possible. So one thing that we have noticed though, and again, I've reiterated this multiple times and I will keep saying it, we have noticed that LinkedIn does seem to push out content more when it's accompanied by your own thoughts and values, when you write something in the caption, as opposed to just sharing the article with no wording to it. So that is one thing that we've noticed. And last but not least, you don't always have to share articles you agree with. And that's a tactic that I think is very important. Sometimes share an article you disagree with. Sometimes share an article that you know people are on both sides of the fence on your that you know your connections are on both sides of the fence, and use your page to start a dialogue and a conversation. Ask a question. Everyone in this industry, what are your thoughts with this latest news? Open-ended. Let people start to help create your conversation. Again, engagement will push your content further. It's just that simple. So open-ended questions are an excellent way to help get your content pushed out further. Last but not least, don't forget this is still social media. I just spent 20 minutes talking all this business and sales and business and sales, but there is still that relationship piece. Don't forget to tell stories. Telling stories is always a great way to connect with people. Telling stories is selling. There's tons of arguments in relationship that talks about the narrative of selling, how you can have a higher closing rate when you're able to wrap that up in a story. They're very similar. Okay, a couple more tips as we are starting to wrap up. Don't forget, there is real estate. There is space at the top of your company pages for everyone has them. One of the really beautiful things is that Facebook allows you to add custom buttons that people don't even realize. You can add call to actions. Contact us, learn more, sign up for a free webinar, whatever it looks like. Make it easy for people to purchase and easy to convert. The banner is free. It's included. Don't forget to use that. These are easy things. These allow, like we're talking about all of those buckets, this allows people to convert at their own pace. So don't miss an opportunity just because you don't understand the technicalities behind it. This needs to be there. Again, we've talked about this before, but just want to reiterate, you can feature 3 hashtags that you want to be visible for. Do not forget about leveraging the community hashtags on your page. Visitors can follow them, they can click on them, they can start to post them. It's an awesome feature. It's an awesome feature. Again, one thing we've talked about a few months ago, just want to throw a quick reminder, employees, connect your page to your company's LinkedIn page. Employers, make sure your employees have connected to your company page. Both profiles win when that happens. The personal profile is positioned as being an employee. It increases their credibility. The business actually gets the benefit because imagine if you have 5 people under your brand who are always positioning themselves and by default your organization as experts. You're getting 5 times that amount of exposure. Everyone wins. Connect your pages. And last but not least, one of the things we've talked about is these touch points. We've talked about these buckets. The reason is because one of the major complaints we're hearing is the amount of people who, as soon as they connect, they immediately interact. Bill uses our automation campaign. Me and him have talked through ad nauseum his approach, where we give it a break. And the first time that we talk to you, it's not just like, hey, Micropulse does all of these things. Why don't you go and call us because we can help you do all of these things. Thank you, first name. That's not. And we have tons of data and research that show that when you appropriately reach out, when you appropriately engage, when you treat people like the buckets they are, and you slowly attempt to move them from bucket to bucket, as well as you allow your brand to accept conversions and make it easy for people, LinkedIn direct messages work. But you just need to be strategic. Remember what we talked about at the very beginning. Earn the right to sell. Earn the right to sell. Somebody simply accepting your connection message is not you earning the right to sell. Last thing. Do not immediately ask for the meeting without providing some type of value. That's a best practice. Now, obviously, we have campaigns and people make their own business decisions. But the one reason we do not recommend that, you guys, is because one sour taste in somebody's mouth, you can't get them back. And I'm sure people have heard the adage about, one good customer only goes so far, but however, one negative review of a customer goes 10x that. And that's true. So always be thinking, is burning this bridge worth it for the future? And the majority of the time, it's not. So earn that right to sell to people. LinkedIn is an awesome platform for business-to-business marketing. Make sure that we're attracting and attempting to engage with people of all buckets. And at the end of the day, I can promise and guarantee you that when done properly, when done strategically, LinkedIn is an awesome, and I mean absolutely awesome platform for business-to-business lead generation and sales. We went just a tad bit over our time. Does anyone have any questions or comments about anything today?
No, everything's excellent. I'm glad I joined the seminar. You made everything very personal, so I learned a lot and no questions so far.
Perfect. And Bill, do you have any questions or anything? And Russell, if you don't mind, if you stay just 2 seconds after we're about to wrap up here, I have something I was going to show you to answer your direct question. But Mr. Halligan, do you have any more questions or comments or thoughts on today?
No, as usual, it's been very helpful. You put some bugs in my ear of what I need to try. I would like to get your definition, because I hear this all the time. What's your definition of a thought leader?
Well, in what regard?
Well, you always hear that, hey, in order to be successful on LinkedIn and for people to be attracted to your profile, you have to be a thought leader.
Okay.
So I'm just trying to understand a little bit better what that is.
Yeah, so there's a few things that go into that. So the first thing is, let's take a step back and let's talk about the platform itself. So the platform itself, as you guys both know, is primarily used for business to business marketing and engagement. Business to business by default, as opposed to B2C, has a little more technicality to it. And therefore, and this is obviously a strong generality, business to business is oftentimes thought of a longer sales process. You need to have more of the trust of somebody. People typically don't think of business to business as somebody just buying immediately. It's not like a consumer, a B2C, a service, a product driving down the street type of situation. So saying all of that, the idea of being a thought leader is critical and important in two spaces. A number of spaces. I'll just throw out some. Number one, is the product or service you do very technical? If it's technical, people need to trust that you have the technical aptitude to do it. Just that simple. Number two, is it a space that requires a lot of trust? For example, lawyers, doctors, large investments, financial investments, real estate investments to a certain extent. Because why are those two things important? Well, first off, you're talking about things like health. You're talking about things like large amounts of money. There's a fear that's also connected with those. So it's very important for somebody to trust that you're a good doctor, that you know what you're doing, that you're a good lawyer, that if I give you $150,000, you have the experience to manage $150,000 effectively. Then it also depends on your competition. Sometimes people have to spend more money on what we like to call branding or thought leadership than you may seem as being appropriate because of how much competition they have. Sometimes you have to separate yourself. And one of the only ways to separate yourself is to be different in the space of technical or of an aptitude. So those are some of my thoughts on what it means and why it's important. But to keep it simple, it's the trust, Bill. And that's why everybody in some capacity needs to have some sense of thought leadership or expertise. People need to trust that you have the technical capability that backs up your personality, no matter how great you are. Does that make sense?
No, it does. I know that was kind of an open-ended question, and you did a good job of answering it. So thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, I'm going to leave the training now and let you and Rasu chat. But nice meeting you, Rasu. And
as always, Bill, I appreciate you, sir. Glad to talk to you. Good to catch up, and hope you and the family are doing well. Okay.
Yeah, sounds good. And give me some Laker tickets. I'll hop on a plane if you can get some.
I'll get you some, brother.
Yeah.
So, Rasu, ma'am, you got just 2 seconds?
Oh, yeah, of course. Yes.
So I'll just show you something really quick.
Of course.
So you asked about our services. So we have a number of them. Oops. Just got to pull up a very quick one. Pricing sheet. Should have one somewhere close here. Here we go. So can you see my screen still?
Yeah, I can see your screen.
So we do a number of different things. And again, mind you, this is all for LinkedIn. We still do things on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and things like that. That is a more of a custom conversation. But so if you guys want more conversation about other platforms, let me know. So this is LinkedIn. It starts as low as $300. So what this is this is what's called our automation software. On its simplest form, this is what Bill uses on the call. It automates 2 things. It automates your connections to people on LinkedIn.
I see.
And it automates your messages to people on LinkedIn. Simple as that. So what you're paying for here are the amount of people we start that process with. The other really cool thing is we can do the same thing. We can automate messages to people who are already that you're connected with also. So we call it like a nurture campaign. So if you already have built up a solid network, we don't need to send the connection request. We could still write a chain of messages that automates them. So I was going to show you that, but in the interest of time, I'll keep rocking. I was just going to show you bills really quick. So everything we're also talking about here, ma'am, is month to month. So there are no contracts for any of this stuff. So very simply, right now, we cannot do the big package because as a LinkedIn partner, LinkedIn has reduced the amount of invites we can send out. So we can't do that right now. So we're only doing these 2 packages right here. Make sense?
Yeah, that would make sense.
We have a service called Social Selling Assistant. This is a trademark service. Basically, what you are paying for is a person for 3 to 4 hours a week to manage your LinkedIn. And it's everything from admin, profile management, and optimization. So we're talking about that featured section and all of those things. They consistently do that. They send your connection requests, they manage, they do all of your engagement with people. So they post comments, they engage, they endorse, they publish content, they profile view, they message people. They literally do everything for you on your behalf. It's custom, and you guys meet once a week to and you get reporting once a week to kind of talk through what their role will essentially be for you.
So what package is that included with?
Yes, ma'am. Yep, I'll go right back to it. So that's going to be $600.
I see.
And then, like I told you, we got a few of them. They get easier to understand, though. You can buy both. So to keep it simple, we call it a bundle. So you can get the assistant and you can get the automation software. Very simple. That'll run you $800. You can do what's called our done for you. So this is going to leverage one of our senior social selling assistants. The goal is 3 to 5 appointments or high quality leads a month. 3 to 5, a week.
I see.
3 to 5 high quality leads appointments a month. Now, I say that's a goal. It is obviously depending on your industry. We work with some very technical industries who, no exaggeration, they probably won't get 20 leads a year, but it doesn't matter. They're only looking to close one of them and they're $1 million. You know what I mean?
Yeah, of course.
So in certain industries, that's not practical, but we basically come to an agreement of what's a practical, realistic goal for new leads and new meetings that we should be sent to you every week. And then our big kind of like personal package on LinkedIn starts about 2,500. It includes everything we've discussed, but we also produce content for you. So it's called our executive profile management service. And we're actually going to do, we actually realized that 2 blogs is too much for most people. So it's normally 1 or 2 blogs a month, 4 LinkedIn graphics, and we make a short video for you.
I see. Okay. Yeah.
So this is all personal. Now we can start running, none of this talked about your, like your corporate page. Corporate page management starts at about $3,500. And then it's also custom. So I'd have to have some deeper conversations. You know, are we going to run ads and manage ad spend and things like that? But you're looking anywhere from 300 to 2,500 on a personal level. And then it'll start about 3,500 on like a corporate business level.
Yeah, understood. I guess everything would really depend on the results. You guys have anything results wise that's, you know, customers have vouched or anything like that?
As far as like their return. So we don't track that as much. And here's kind of why. Number one, we work with over 100 clients and everything's different. So for example, what Bill sells wouldn't necessarily be fair for me to use his numbers because Bill works with IT companies for like banks and things like that. So a new deal for him is like $150,000, $250,000. You get what I'm saying? So if I was to tell people that we can help get that much money, that's just not possible for everybody. So we typically don't speak that way. What we typically talk about is in regards to reply rate, return rate, and meetings booked. Because that's the other thing is that, I mean, this is me being very honest with you as something that I just always will be. We consider our definition of success to be, did we find the exact person that Rasu was looking for? Did we engage with that company appropriately? Where we find the right contact and book that meeting for her? Once we do that, the ball's in your court, in Honeypot's court.
I see. Okay.
You see what I mean? Because like there's so many things that can change whether or not you close that deal that have zero to do with us. So it's like we say, did we find the right person? Perfect. Did we engage? Did we get the company? Were we able to get that meeting and book that interaction? At that point, we've really done what our job is. Because if you have bad customer service or say you're expensive or any of those other things, like we literally can't control that at all.
I see. Yeah.
But I can be the person that's responsible for, did I identify your target market? Did I put you in front of your target market? Did we help craft engagement messages and tactics? Did we help get a meeting on the books? We absolutely need to are responsible for that.
I see. At this point, I definitely know, what you guys are services, offer, and I'm going to run it through my president.
Okay.
Talking to the right person. I am in charge of, sales and marketing.
Okay.
It's something I'll have to discuss and see if we're interested. Okay.
Yes, ma'am. Do you have any other questions about us as a company or about any of those products or anything like that by chance?
At the moment, no.
Okay.
Yeah, like I said, I'll have to, discuss these over with
100%.
If we have any concerns or questions, we'll get back to you, okay?
Yeah, here's what I'll do. If you open up the chat really quick, ma'am, my email is just simply lorenzo@sociallyin.com.
Perfect.
Oops, actually, I just went to host or panelists. Let me send it to everyone. There you go. So that's my email. Yeah. And if you got more questions, like I said, you don't got to rush to make a decision. If you got more questions you want to talk through, let's talk. If you got more people that want to be involved in the process, give me a ring. Let's schedule a second call. Or if you know what you're interested in, just shoot me a note and we'll go from there, man.
That sounds excellent. Thank you so much for hosting this webinar today. And I can definitely confidently say that I learned a lot.
Perfect. Well, I appreciate it. That's all I hope for. Appreciate your time and look forward to hearing from you. Okay.
Of course. You too. Have a wonderful day.
You as well. Have a great Tuesday. Bye-bye.